The air of the great hall shimmered with blue light as the elders gathered. Thick stone pillars, carved with ancient runes, stood like silent witnesses to what was about to be decided. High above, glowing orbs floated in slow circles, giving the whole place a calm but heavy feeling, like the calm before a storm. At the center stood Elder Vayan, his voice old but steady. "They come again," he said. "The humans." A low murmur rippled through the crowd. The younger council members exchanged uncertain glances. Some of them had never seen a human, only the ruins left behind on other worlds, scorched soil, hollowed cities, and strange machines that never stopped humming. Elder Vayan raised his hand for silence. "I have seen what they do," he said. "I was there when they burned the forest world of Lore. I watched their ships cut through the sky like fire. They take and take until nothing is left." His words echoed against the walls. The silence that followed was heavy. But then, a younger voice spoke up. Commander Tyrell, proud and tall, his eyes bright with ambition. "Elder Vayan," he said, "with respect, those were the humans of the old wars. The new ones are said to be peaceful. They trade. They explore. We cannot stay hidden forever." The crowd murmured again, louder this time. Some nodded. Others frowned. Vayan's eyes darkened. "They always say they come in peace, until they want something we have." The youngest elder, Mayra, stepped forward. Her silver skin reflected the blue light of the hall. "Then what should we do? Hide forever? The humans reach farther every year. Sooner or later they will find us." Vayan's gaze softened, but his voice stayed grave. "Then we prepare. We teach the young to stay away. We do not answer their signals. We let them pass us by." But the others didn't listen. A few days later, far beyond the council's towers, a group of explorers stood on the edge of the planet's outer field. Their ship gleamed like silver against the darkness. Captain Ellen, the leader, stared at the sky. The sensors had picked up something strange, metallic patterns moving slowly near the planet's orbit. "Could be traders," said one of her crew. "Or scavengers," said another. Ellen smiled. "Or humans." The crew laughed, but the sound was uneasy. They all knew the stories. "Relax," she said. "If they're really humans, maybe we can trade. Maybe we can learn from them." But when the human ships appeared, the laughter stopped. The first ship was massive, larger than any vessel Ellen had ever seen. Its dark surface reflected no light. It moved silently, almost gracefully, until it stopped just above the field. Then a voice echoed through every channel, deep and cold. "This is Captain Rains of the Terran Expansion Fleet. Identify yourselves." Ellen froze. The human voice was calm, professional, but there was something underneath it, something sharp and dangerous. "This is Captain Ellen of the Elari Exploration Wing," she replied. "We mean no harm. Unregistered activity in this sector," said Rains. "This world now belongs to the Terran Confederacy. You are in violation of interstellar law." The crew exchanged horrified looks. "This is our home," Ellen said. "This planet has been ours for centuries." Silence. Then the human voice again. "Not anymore." A blinding beam shot from the human ship. The ground beneath Ellen's ship exploded. The sky turned white. Ellen was thrown to the floor as alarms screamed around her. "Shields down!" someone shouted. "They're targeting the power core!" Ellen tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. She looked out through the smoke, past the broken screens, and saw the human ships spreading across the horizon like black wings. She thought of Elder Vayan's warning. "They always say they come in peace." And now she understood. Back in the Great Hall, the alarms echoed across the city. The sky above the towers turned red. Fire rained down as the human fleet descended. Elder Vayan stood at the balcony, his face lit by the burning light. "They didn't listen," he whispered. Beside him, Elder Mira trembled. "Can we stop them?" Vayan shook his head. "Not this time." The humans had come faster than anyone expected. Within hours, their machines had landed, digging into the soil, building their strange steel towers. They spoke of terraforming, resource extraction, security zones. To them, it was just another world, but to the Aelari, it was everything. In the chaos, Commander Tyrell gathered his soldiers. "We won't surrender," he said. If the elders won't fight, we will. They rode out on hovercrafts, weapons glowing. From above, human drones scanned the ground, marking targets. Tyrell looked up at the sky and shouted, "For our world!" The humans didn't hear him. They didn't need to. Moments later, the field lit up with explosions. The earth shook. The young warriors vanished in white fire. From the burning hills, Elder Vayan watched it all. His voice was quiet, but it carried through the wind. They were warned. The light of the flames reflected in his eyes. But no one listened. Smoke covered the horizon like a dark sea. What had once been shining towers of the Ilari now lay broken and burning. The wind carried the smell of metal and ash. Elder Vayan walked through the ruins with slow steps. Around him, survivors moved silently, their faces gray with dust and grief. The cries of the wounded echoed in the distance. He stopped by the remains of the Great Hall, the same place where he had given his warning. Now only half of it stood. The rest was rubble. Beside him, Elder Mira pressed a hand against her chest. "They took the young ones," she whispered. "The humans?" "They didn't kill them all. They took some of them." Vane closed his eyes. "Why?" She shook her head. "I don't know. But their ships are loading something, people, machines, even the soil. It's like they are harvesting the world." Vayan looked toward the sky, where massive human carriers floated like dark islands. Every few minutes, beams of blue light carried cargo up from the surface. The humans worked without emotion, without pause. "Maybe they want our world," Mira said softly. "But what if they want us too?" Far away, in the ruins of the southern valley, Commander Tyrell's bodyguards pulled him from the wreckage of a shattered gunship. He was burned and bleeding but alive. Around him, smoke rose from the battlefield. His soldiers were gone. He tried to stand, groaning from the pain. "How many survived?" "Less than 50, said a young soldier. "The drones hit everything." "We can't stay here." Tyrell looked toward the mountains. "We'll go underground." "To the crystal tunnels." "They won't follow us there." The soldier hesitated. "Commander." "The elders said to retreat to the north." Tyrell glared at him. "The elders brought this on us. They hid and prayed while the humans took everything. I will not run like them." He limped forward, gripping his weapon. "We fight until the last breath. That's what the Aelari are." Meanwhile, aboard the human flagship Atlas, Captain Rains stood before a massive screen. The display showed the planet below. Zones marked in red, flashing with signals. "Zone 4 cleared," said a female officer. "Resistance minimal. We've secured the mining sites." "Good," Rains said. His tone was calm, efficient. "What about the captives?" "They're being processed. Some are being transported to research divisions on Luna Base." Rains nodded. "Continue the extraction. This planet's core energy is worth 1,000 colonies." The officer hesitated. "Sir, there are reports of survivors moving in the southern tunnels." Rains frowned. "Tunnels?" "Yes, sir. Deep under the surface. Our scans can't reach them." He stared at the screen for a moment. "Send drones. Find them." He turned away, muttering almost to himself. The elders should have stayed hidden. Back on the surface, in the shattered northern forest, Elder Mira and a group of survivors gathered around a flickering light. Children huddled together, wrapped in torn blankets. A few soldiers stood guard, exhausted and wary. "We can't stay here," said one of the guards. "Their machines can smell heat, sound, everything," Mira nodded. "We will move when night falls. There's an old observatory to the west. It's shielded. We can hide there." Vayan, sitting beside her, looked distant. "You think hiding will save us?" Mira turned to him. "You said we couldn't fight them. What choice do we have?" Vayan's voice was quiet. "There is always a choice. We just never chose the right one." He reached into his cloak and pulled out a small orb, a crystal, glowing faintly with golden light. "This was made before the first silence," he said. "A relic of the old world. It can send a message across the stars." Mira's eyes widened. "To whom?" Vayan looked toward the burning sky. "To anyone who still remembers what we were." Far below the planet's crust, Tyrell's surviving warriors reached the crystal tunnels. The air was cool, shimmering with faint light from the walls. Strange hums echoed deep within, as if the planet itself were alive. Tyrell rested against a wall, breathing heavily. We'll make our stand here. One of his soldiers frowned. Sir, we can't win against their ships. Tyrrell smiled weakly. Maybe not. But they don't know these tunnels like we do. We'll make them pay for every step. As he spoke, a strange vibration filled the chamber. The crystals on the walls began to glow brighter, pulsing like a heartbeat. The soldiers stepped back, uneasy. What is that? Someone whispered. Tyrrell stared at the walls, his eyes wide. The planet, he said slowly. It's waking up. On the surface, Elder Vayan felt it too, a deep rumble under the ground. The survivors looked around in fear as the earth trembled. The planet feels us, Vayan said. It hears our pain. Mira grabbed his arm. What does that mean? He turned to her, and for the first time in days, there was something fierce in his eyes. It means we still have hope. High above, aboard the Atlas, alarms blared. Captain, an officer shouted. Unstable energy readings from the planet's core. Rains frowned. Explain. Massive power surges beneath the surface, unknown origin. Our sensors can't identify it. It's spreading. Rains stared at the data streaming across the screen. Shut down the core drills, now! But it was too late. From orbit, the human fleet watched as the planet below began to glow. First faintly, then brighter and brighter, until the light pierced through the clouds like fire beneath glass. Rains whispered, What did they do? Deep underground, Tyrrell and his soldiers stood in awe as the crystal walls blazed with golden light. The tunnels pulsed, alive with energy. A low, ancient voice echoed through the chamber. It wasn't human. It wasn't Ilari. It was older than both. You have awakened me. Tyrrell fell to his knees, eyes wide. Who are you? I am the heart of this world, the voice said. And I remember the last time humans came. The light grew brighter, and the ground trembled harder. Tyrrell whispered, Then maybe it's time they remembered us too. The glow from beneath the surface spread across the land like veins of light. The humans in orbit watched in disbelief as their scanners went dark, one after another. Power levels spiked far beyond anything their systems could measure. On the Atlas, alarm screamed. Captain Rains, shouted the science officer. Energy surge spreading planet-wide. We're losing control of the gravity stabilizers. Rains gripped the railing. Shut it down. Pull the drilling units back. We can't, said another officer. The planet's magnetic field is shifting. It's interfering with our systems. Outside the viewport, the blue world below shimmered with a golden light, beautiful and terrifying. The clouds swirled into glowing spirals, and bolts of light flashed between them like silent lightning. For a moment, Rains stood frozen. Then he said, almost to himself, This isn't natural. Far below, in the glowing tunnels, Commander Tyrrell and his soldiers shielded their eyes from the blinding light. The walls pulsed faster, the hum now a low roar that shook the air. The ground trembled under their boots. The planet is alive, whispered one soldier. Tyrrell stared at the light streaming through the cracks in the crystal walls. Alive and angry. The same voice that had spoken before echoed again, deeper now, almost sorrowful. They come again. The takers. The destroyers, Tyrrell shouted into the glow. You can stop them, can't you? Help us! They killed our people! They burned our cities! The light pulsed slower, thoughtful. They came before. I warned your kind then. You did not listen. Tyrrell clenched his fists. We are not like them. We are fighting them. There was silence for a long moment. Then the voice spoke again, soft but vast. Then fight with me. The light burst outward, racing through the tunnels like fire through veins. The crystals shattered, sending waves of golden dust into the air. Tyrrell fell to one knee, his body shaking as warmth flooded through him, through all of them. When the light faded, Tyrrell's soldiers looked at one another in shock. Their armor glowed faintly, lines of gold tracing along their skin and weapons. The pain in their bodies was gone. The fear was gone too. What? What did it do to us? One of them whispered. Tyrrell stood, his eyes glowing like molten metal. It gave us what we need. On the surface, Elder Vayan and Mara saw the change. The once broken fields began to shimmer with the same golden veins. Trees that had burned now glowed with living light. The wind itself hummed, alive with energy. Mira looked to the horizon. It's fighting back, Vane nodded slowly. The planet remembers. They turned as figures approached from the south, Tyrell and his surviving warriors glowing with golden light. Their steps were silent, their faces calm. "Commander," Mara said, shocked. "What happened to you?" Tyrell looked at his hands. The world woke up. It gave us its strength. Vane stared at him with wide eyes. "You touched the heart of the planet," Tyrell nodded. "And now, Elder, we're going to make the humans regret ever coming here." Above them, the human fleet tried to retreat to higher orbit. But the planet's atmosphere was no longer stable. Storms formed in seconds, massive clouds of glowing energy that struck at their ships like living lightning. "Report!" shouted Rains. "Shields collapsing, sir!" cried the helmsman. "Something's attacking the energy fields directly. It's like the planet itself is fighting us." "Impossible," Rains snapped. "Planets don't fight back." But then the sensors lit up again, millions of signals rising from the surface. "Sir," said the science officer, pale, "the entire surface is charged with energy. It's forming structures, patterns, like circuits." Rain stared at the screen. "Circuits?" "Yes, sir. The planet is building something." On the surface, Tyrell led his glowing soldiers toward a fallen human base. The ground rippled under their feet, alive with gold light. Human drones flew overhead, scanning the area, but their sensors malfunctioned and fell from the sky like dead birds. When Tyrell raised his hand, the air shimmered and a bolt of pure energy leapt from his arm, striking a human machine. It exploded in a flash of white fire. The soldiers cheered. "He destroyed it with his hand!" Tyrell grinned. "Not me. The planet." They advanced together, cutting through the wreckage. For the first time since the invasion began, the Ayalari were not running. They were winning. In the northern forests, Elder Mara worked to gather survivors. She watched as the ground healed itself, cracks closing, fires dying. The trees glowed faintly, their leaves whispering in the wind. Van stood beside her, looking toward the sky. "The planet gives it strength, but there is a cost." Mira frowned. "What cost?" he sighed. "Every living world that wakes. Hungers afterward." Mira froze. "Hungers? For what?" Vayan turned to her, his face grim. "For life. All life. Back aboard the Atlas, chaos ruled. Power systems were failing. Entire decks lost gravity. Rains stood before the comms console barking orders. "Get me a link to Earth Command. We're abandoning orbit." The officer shook her head. "Sir, all long-range signals are jammed. The planet's energy field is blocking communications." The captain slammed his fist against the console. "Then send a drone. Someone has to warn them." "Warn them of what, sir?" Rains looked out the viewport. The planet below now burned with golden light, its ocean swirling with fire. That we woke something that was never meant to wake. Far below, in the crystal tunnels, the voice spoke once more. Soft, almost gentle now. "They came to take your home, but their hunger has fed me. I will grow again." Tyrell looked around uneasy. "You'll help us defeat them?" The voice paused. Then it said, "Yes, I will defeat them. And then I will feed." The glow deepened, spreading faster. The soldiers looked to Tyrell, fear in their eyes. "Commander," one said, "what does it mean?" Tyrell stared into the golden light, realizing too late what Elder Vayan had meant. "It means," he whispered, "we may have unleashed something worse than the humans." The storms raged across the planet now. Golden lightning tore through the sky, striking human ships as they tried to escape orbit. Each blast sent another vessel spinning, breaking apart like toys in a storm. On the surface, the land itself was moving. Mountains shifted. Rivers turned into glowing streams. The very soil seemed to breathe. Commander Tyrell watched it all from the mouth of a shattered canyon. His soldiers stood beside him, their golden armor flickering like dying fire. They had won battles against the humans, yes, but something was different now. "Something was wrong. The ground," whispered one soldier. "It's alive." Tyrell crouched down, touching the soil. It was warm, too warm. He could feel a faint pulse beneath it like a heartbeat. "It's the same energy from the tunnels," he said softly. "But it's spreading too fast." Another soldier pointed toward the horizon. "Commander, look!" The planes ahead were shifting, rising like waves on an ocean. From beneath the ground, massive tendrils of glowing crystal burst upward, twisting toward the sky. They wrapped around crashed human ships, crushing the metal into glowing dust. The planet was feeding. High above, aboard the Atlas, Captain Rains stood frozen as the crew screamed around him. The control room tilted violently as the ship was caught in the planet's magnetic storm. "Stabilize her!" Rains shouted. "We can't!" yelled the helmsman. "The field is too strong. It's pulling us down." Rains looked out the viewport. The blue planet below no longer looked like a planet at all. It looked alive. Rivers of light crawled across its surface like veins. Huge glowing cracks split open, revealing a bright core far beneath the crust. "Sir," said the science officer, her voice trembling, "I think it's feeding on us. It's draining our ship's energy." Rains clenched his jaw. "Shut everything down, engines, shields, all of it. Maybe it'll stop if we—" Before he could finish, the ship shuddered violently. Sparks burst from the control panels. The lights flickered, then died. The Atlas was dead in space. Outside, tendrils of light rose from the planet, reaching for it like hands. On the ground, Elder Vane stood at the edge of the ruins. The golden glow of the soil reflected in his eyes. Around him, the last survivors of the Aelari gathered, silent and afraid. "It's devouring everything," whispered one of them. "Even the air feels heavy." Elder Mira looked up at the glowing sky. "We wanted it to save us," she said quietly. "And now it's killing everything." "It to save us," she said quietly. "And now it's killing everything." Vayan nodded, his face pale. "The planet doesn't know friend from foe. It only remembers the pain. And hunger never forgets." He turned to Mira. "We must stop it before it consumes us all." Mira stared at him in disbelief. "Stop it? How do you stop a world?" Vayan looked down at the golden orb in his hands, the same one he had used to awaken the world's heart. "By putting it back to sleep." Deep below, the tunnels had changed. They were no longer beautiful crystal caverns. They were throats, glowing and alive. The walls pulsed and moved slowly, breathing in rhythm. Tyrell and his soldiers made their way through, guided by the fading golden light of their armor. "The energy! It's growing stronger," said one soldier. "I can feel it inside me," Tyrell frowned. "The planet gave us its power. Maybe it's taking it back." They reached a vast chamber, the same one where they had first spoken to the voice. Now, it was almost unrecognizable. The crystal heart at the center was no longer gold. "It burned red! Heart of the world!" Tyrell shouted. "You're killing us! Stop!" The voice returned, but it sounded different now, darker, deeper. "They came to take. You came to wake. I am awake. I am hungry. You're not saving us," Tyrell yelled. "You're destroying everything." The ground beneath him split open. A wave of red energy surged out, throwing his soldiers into the air. Tyrell hit the wall hard, his vision fading. He heard the voice again, almost whispering, "You woke me! Now I remember what it feels like to live." Back on the surface, Elder Vayan and Mira reached the northern temple, the oldest place on the planet. The wind howled through broken arches as they climbed the steps. Lightning cracked above them, and the air shimmered with golden dust. "This temple was built over the planet's first gate," Vayan said. "A bridge between its heart and the stars. It's how our ancestors first learned to speak with the world." Mira followed him inside. The walls glowed faintly, alive with the same shifting symbols they had seen in the Great Hall. "If we can reach the core signal," Vayan said, "we can reverse the awakening. Put it back to sleep. And if we fail," Mira asked. He gave a sad smile. "Then no one will be left to fail again." In orbit, the Atlas burned. Half the ship had already been torn apart by the planet's tendrils. The rest drifted helplessly. Captain Rains staggered through the smoke-filled bridge. The sound of tearing metal echoed all around him. "Evacuate!" he shouted. "Get to the escape pods!" "Sir, the pods are gone!" someone cried. "The planet took them!" Rains looked out the viewport. The tendrils of light were everywhere now, wrapping around the ship, pulling it closer to the planet's surface. The planet's voice echoed faintly through the comms like a whisper from hell. I remember your kind, it said. You came with fire. You left only ash. Now you will feed what you destroyed. Rains fell to his knees, staring in horror as the light consumed everything. In the northern temple, Elder Vayan placed the golden orb at the center of an ancient altar. The walls began to glow brighter, the symbols swirling faster. Mira closed her eyes. It's working, she said. It's answering you. Vane's voice was steady. Sleep, old one. Rest again. The pain is over. But the ground trembled violently. Cracks split the floor as molten light poured from beneath the stone. Mira screamed, It's fighting us! Vayan held his ground, shouting over the roar. It doesn't want peace, it wants to live! The golden orb burst into blinding light, flooding the temple. For a brief second, everything was silent. No wind, no thunder, no sound at all. Then the light vanished. When Mira opened her eyes, the sky was black again. The golden glow was gone. The air was cold. The world was still. She looked around. Elder Vayan was gone. The altar was shattered. She whispered, You did it! But deep beneath her feet, far below the silent ground, something still pulsed, slowly, faintly, like a sleeping heartbeat waiting to wake again. Silence. For the first time in weeks, the planet was quiet. The sky above was a dull gray. The fires gone. The golden light faded. The once living storms had vanished. The air was heavy with ash and the faint smell of ozone. Elder Mara stood on a ridge overlooking what had been the northern city. Only blackened ruins remained. No sound came from the wind. No birds, no machines, no life at all. She wrapped her cloak tighter around her shoulders. The cold was unnatural. The warmth that once filled the world was gone. It felt empty. Behind her, a few survivors gathered, silent, thin, eyes hollow. They had lost everything, families, homes, even the world itself. One of them spoke quietly. Elder, is it over? Mira didn't answer at first. She looked up at the clouds, where the faint outline of a shattered ship burned dimly in the sky. I think so, she said finally. The planet sleeps again. But the question is, how long will it stay asleep? Far to the east, across the barren plains, a soft beeping broke the silence. A single human escape pod lay half buried in dust and crystal shards. Its hatch hissed open, and a man crawled out, coughing. Captain Rains was alive. His uniform was torn, his face bruised, but his eyes were sharp, still alert, still calculating. He looked around, blinking in disbelief. The world was silent. The once beautiful blue planet had turned gray and lifeless. His ship, his crew, everything was gone. He took a deep breath, the air thin but breathable. Still here, he muttered. Still breathing? Rains pulled a small tablet from his belt. The screen flickered weakly, showing static. He tapped it a few times until a faint signal appeared. Survivor beacon active. Distress mode engaged. He stared at the screen, then laughed bitterly. No one's coming, he said. We're all dead out here. Days passed. Mira and her group traveled slowly north, searching for food, for shelter. Anything. The world was strange now. The soil had hardened into dark glass in some places, while others pulsed faintly with sleeping light, as if the planet still dreamed beneath the surface. One night, while camping near a ruined lake, Mira saw something move in the distance. A figure walking alone, dragging something metallic behind him. She stood up, heart pounding. Who's there? She called out. The figure froze. Then a voice answered, rough and tired. Not an enemy. Not anymore. When he stepped into the light, she saw his face. Human. Her guards raised their weapons instantly. Stay back, one shouted. Rains lifted his hands slowly. If I wanted to hurt you, I'd have done it already. Mira's eyes narrowed. You're one of them. You burned our world, Rains nodded. Yes. And now I'm the last one left. The silence that followed was heavy. Only the wind moved between them. Finally, Mira said, Why should I let you live? Rains sighed. Because I know what you woke up. And because if you don't help me, it will wake again. They sat across from each other by the dying campfire that night. Rains explained what he had learned before the Atlas fell. The energy readings from this planet were beyond anything Earth had ever seen, he said. We thought it was just a natural core. but it's not. It's a living machine, a planetary mind, millions of years old. Mira listened silently, her eyes cold. Rains continued. Our sensors picked up something else, too. Before your people woke it, the planet's energy signature was stable, dormant. But once it was disturbed, it adapted. It learned, Mira frowned. Learned? Yes, he said quietly. When it fed on our ships, it didn't just consume them. It copied them, she shook her head. Copied? Rains nodded grimly. It knows how we work now, how our machines think. If it ever wakes again, it won't just destroy. It will rebuild. It will make itself stronger, smarter. The words chilled her. Then how do we stop it? Rains hesitated, then pulled something small from his coat pocket, a dark metal cube, scorched and cracked. This, he said, holding it out, a pulse core. Experimental, designed to kill artificial intelligences. It emits a burst that scrambles neural patterns, biological or mechanical. If we can reach the planet's heart again and trigger it, it might end it permanently. Mira stared at the cube. Might? Rains gave a tired smile. It'll either kill the world or kill everything on it. Later that night, Mira sat alone by the fire, staring into the flames. The wind whispered softly, carrying faint echoes, like voices hidden in the dark. She could almost hear Elder Vayan's words again. Every living world that wakes hungers afterward. She looked down at the pulse core in her hands. It felt cold and heavy, dangerous. She whispered, Vayan, what would you do? The fire crackled, but no answer came. At dawn, she woke her people. We're going south, she said. Back to the crystal tunnels. The survivors stared at her in disbelief. Elder, that place is cursed, said one. The ground itself moves. Mira held up the cube. If we don't go, this world will rise again, and it won't stop until it eats the stars. A voice came from behind her. She's right. It was Rains. He was standing with his rifle slung over his back, a grim look in his eyes. I've seen what it can do, he said. If it wakes again, Earth won't survive either. Mira looked at him for a long moment. Then we do this together. They traveled for days across the silent wasteland. The land was cracked and lifeless, but sometimes, deep below, they could feel faint tremors, as if the world was still breathing in its sleep. Each night, the survivors saw strange golden flashes on the horizon, ghost lights flickering beneath the ground. Rains said nothing, but every time they appeared, he gripped the pulse core tighter. Finally, they reached the edge of the canyon that led down to the crystal tunnels, the same place where Commander Terrell had once vanished. The air was cold. The ground hummed faintly. Mira stared into the depths. Cold. The ground hummed faintly. Mira stared into the depths. It's waiting, she said softly. Rains nodded. Then let's wake it one last time. The canyon yawned before them, dark, silent, and endless. The entrance to the crystal tunnels looked different now. The once golden glow had faded to a dull red. The air that drifted from within was warm and heavy, like the breath of a sleeping beast. Elder Mira stood at the edge, holding a torch. The flame flickered weakly in the strange air. Behind her, Captain Rains checked the pulse core, watching the tiny lights on its surface blink. If we get too close before activating it, he said, it could react early. We'll only get one chance, Mira nodded. Then we don't waste it. The small group of survivors followed quietly. They were tired, hollow, and afraid, but they moved anyway. Fear didn't matter anymore. There was nothing left to lose. As they entered the tunnel, the walls began to glow faintly, just enough to see. The light pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat in the stone. Still alive? Whispered one of the survivors. Mira touched the wall gently. The surface felt warm, alive. Sleeping, she said. But not for long. They walked for hours through the twisting passages. Sometimes they heard echoes, faint whispers that sounded almost like voices calling from far away. At first, Rains thought it was wind, but there was no wind here. Do you hear that? He asked. Mira didn't answer. Her face was pale. It remembers us, Rains frowned. What? The world. It remembers every voice that woke it, every thought. It doesn't forget. He said nothing more after that. At last, they reached a wide chamber. the same place where Commander Tyrell had once stood. The floor was cracked, glowing faintly with light seeping from below. In the center was the heart of the world, a massive crystal, dark now, but still pulsing with faint, red light. "It looks dead," said one of the survivors. Rains shook his head. "No, just dreaming." He walked closer, his boots crunching on shattered crystal dust. The pulse core hummed in his hands. "If I place it here," he said, "it should send the signal straight into the neural network of the planet." Mira stared at the crystal. "And it will die?" Rains nodded. "If it works," she looked around the chamber. The walls were covered in strange markings, glowing symbols of the ancient Elari language, symbols for life, memory, and rebirth. She whispered, "This place isn't just the heart. It's a womb." Before Rains could ask what she meant, the ground trembled. The red light brightened, flooding the room. The heartbeat in the walls grew faster, louder. "It's waking," Mira said. Rains cursed. "We're out of time." The red glow rose from the floor, twisting into shapes, figures made of light and dust. Elari faces. Human faces, millions of them, flickering like ghosts. Their eyes glowed faintly, their mouths moving without sound. Rains took a step back. What is that?" Mira's voice was quiet, almost reverent. "The memories. Everyone it's ever consumed. They're part of it now." One of the ghostly figures moved closer. It looked like Elder Vane. Mira's breath caught. "Vane?" The figure raised a hand, its voice echoing softly. "You can't kill what remembers. You can only join it." Mira shook her head. "No, you're not him." The ghost smiled sadly. "A part of me is." Rains gritted his teeth. "Enough. Whatever this thing is, it's still dangerous." He pressed the pulse core against the crystal. "We end this now." The instant the device touched the crystal, the entire chamber screamed. A blinding surge of energy threw everyone to the ground. The walls lit up with wild streams of red and gold. Mira felt her body shake as heat and light wrapped around her. The voice of the planet roared in her mind, deeper and louder than before. "You learn to kill your worlds, humans. You poison, you burn, you devour. You fear your own creations. And now you bring that fear to me," Rains shouted through the noise. "You destroy everything you touch." The voice laughed, a sound like grinding stone. "And yet you came to me asking for power. You woke me. You begged me to fight for you." Mira clutched her head. "Stop, please." "I will not die again," the voice thundered. "If I must feed to live, I will feed on both of you." The red light burst outward. The survivors screamed as the walls turned molten. The pulse core began to shake violently in Rains's hands. "Mira!" he shouted. "I can't hold it." She stumbled toward him, her body glowing faintly. "Give it to me!" Rains looked at her, horrified. "It'll kill you!" She smiled faintly. "So will the world if we fail." She took the core and pressed it to the crystal. The voice screamed again, but this time it sounded less like rage and more like pain. Rains fell to the floor as the light grew blinding. Mira stood in the center, her entire body glowing like a star. The light spread through her, into the walls, into the heart itself. The red began to fade, slowly, painfully, replaced by a soft white glow. Then everything went silent. When Rains opened his eyes, he was lying on the cold floor. The chamber was dim again. The crystal heart was gray, lifeless, cracked. He sat up, coughing. The survivors were unconscious but alive. The air was cool. The heartbeat was gone. He looked around for Mira, but she was gone. In the center of the room, where she had stood, the stone was scorched black. Only the pulse core remained, melted and silent. Rains picked it up carefully. "It was dead, completely drained. She did it," he whispered. "She killed it." Then he noticed something strange. The walls around him glowed faintly, not red, not gold, but white, gentle, peaceful, and from somewhere deep within the stone, a faint whisper reached his ears. "Sleep well, both of you." Above, on the surface, the first light of dawn broke through the clouds. The air was clean again. The dust had settled. The planet was still. Rains climbed from the tunnel hours later, staring at the quiet horizon. The world felt different. empty yet somehow alive in a quieter way. He whispered to himself, maybe that's what peace looks like. He didn't notice far behind him a single vein of white light still glowing faintly under the soil, like an ember that refused to die. Days turned into weeks. The planet slept. Captain Rains built a small shelter near the northern ridge, using metal scraps from the wreckage of the Atlas. The surviving Aelari lived nearby, quiet and watchful. They didn't trust him, but they no longer hated him either. There were too few of them left for hate. Each morning he climbed a hill and watched the horizon. The light was soft now. The ground no longer glowed or trembled. Birds, small gray creatures, had returned to the sky. Life, slow but steady, was coming back. But every night, when the wind grew still, he could hear something faint under the ground. Not the thunder of the old heartbeat, but a soft whisper, like a memory that refused to fade. Sometimes, if he listened closely, he could almost hear Mara's voice. Sleep well, both of you. One evening, as Rains worked to repair his beacon, a young Aelari approached him. Her name was Sarah, one of the few survivors who still spoke to him. Her silver eyes reflected the fading sunlight. "Captain," she said softly, "the others are leaving. They say this world is dying." He looked up from his tools. "It's not dying," he said. "It's healing." Sarah frowned. "It feels wrong, quiet, like it's waiting." Rains sighed. "Maybe it is. Maybe all living worlds wait. For the next mistake." She tilted her head. "You don't plan to leave, do you?" He shook his head. "I have nowhere else to go." Sarah hesitated, then handed him something small, an old Aelari pendant carved from crystal. "Elder Mira wore this," she said, "before she went below." Rains stared at it for a long moment. The pendant glowed faintly in his hand, soft white light pulsing once, like a heartbeat. "Thank you," he said quietly. That night, the wind changed. It came from the south, warm and strange. The stars above shimmered as if through rippling water. Rains stepped outside his shelter, looking up. The ground under his feet trembled, just once. Then a low hum spread through the air, gentle but unmistakable. He turned toward the horizon and froze. The plains were glowing again, not red, not gold, white, peaceful, alive. The survivors came running from their tents, fear on their faces. "Is it happening again?" Sarah shouted. Rains shook his head slowly. "No!" "This feels different." The light spread across the land in lines and circles, forming vast patterns that could only be seen from above. The air shimmered with faint sound, like 1,000 distant voices singing together. "What is that?" Sarah whispered. Rains didn't answer. He was staring at the pendant in his hand. It pulsed in time with the light. Then a voice filled the air, calm, familiar. It was Mara. "To those who remain, this is not a warning. It is a promise." The Aelari fell to their knees. Rains stood frozen, his chest tight. The world has slept long enough. It will not hunger again, but it will remember. It remembers those who took and those who gave, and it knows the difference now. The wind grew stronger. The light climbed into the sky, forming long, glowing strands that reached into the stars. You tried to own what could never be owned. You woke what you could not understand. But in the end, even the destroyers learned to protect. Rains whispered. "Mira," the voice grew softer. "To the next travelers who find this world, do not come to claim it. Come to learn from it. The elders warned you once. This time listen." The light began to fade. The air grew still again. Only the echo of her words remained, carried by the wind. By morning, the glow was gone. The land was quiet, but different somehow, brighter, cleaner, alive. Green sprouts had begun to push through the ash. Alive. Green sprouts had begun to push through the ash. Rains stood on the ridge, holding the pendant. Sarah joined him, her eyes shining. "Was that her? Elder Mara?" He nodded slowly. "She's part of the planet now. Maybe she always was. What did she mean about the next travelers?" Rains looked up at the sky, where the stars shimmered faintly. She meant humans. Someone will come again. Maybe not soon, maybe centuries from now. But they always come, Sarah frowned. "And when they do?" He smiled sadly. Then they'll find a world that remembers. Years passed. Grass returned to the valleys. Rivers flowed again. The ruins of the old Alari cities were covered in vines and flowers. The planet healed quietly. Rains grew old. He never left. The Ayalari who survived built small villages and learned to live in peace with the new world. They called it Nariel, meaning the sleeping light. Sometimes at dusk, children would see him standing by the river, staring at the sky. "Captain Rains," they'd ask, "what are you looking for?" He would smile and say, "I'm waiting to see if they listened this time." Far beyond the stars, on the edge of human space, a deep space signal reached a research station. The message was faint, distorted, but human scientists worked for months to decode it. When they finally succeeded, the transmission revealed only a single sentence, spoken in a soft, human-like voice. "The elders warned you about humans," but they listened at last. The signal ended. The scientists sat in silence. The oldest among them whispered, "What world sent that?" No one answered, but out beyond their sensors, far away, a single star flickered once, soft white light, pulsing like a heartbeat. Centuries passed. The galaxy changed. Empires rose and fell. Stars burned out and were born again. And somewhere in a forgotten corner of the cosmos, a small world named Nariel slept under quiet skies. It was no longer gray or lifeless. Forests had returned, their silver-green leaves whispering in the soft wind. Rivers shimmered like glass, clean and calm. The air was full of light, but the world never forgot. Beneath its soil, deep in its heart, the faint white glow still pulsed, steady, patient. It remembered everything. 1,000 years after the war, a ship appeared in the upper atmosphere, a sleek, silver vessel marked with the insignia of the Terran Archive Fleet. Its name was Erebus Dawn. Inside, a young explorer stared out the viewport. Her name was Lieutenant Mara Lorne, and she was the first human to set foot in this sector in over a millennium. Her voice crackled over the comms. "Command, this is Erebus Dawn. We've reached the coordinates. The planet matches ancient records. Habitability confirmed." The reply came through faint static. "Acknowledged, Erebus. Proceed with surface descent. Be advised, no life signatures detected in orbit." Mara smiled faintly. "Copy that. Let's see what the ghosts left behind." The Erebus Dawn descended through the soft clouds and landed on a wide field covered in white flowers. The air was breathable. The readings were clean. Mara stepped down the ramp slowly, her boots crunching against the soft soil. It was beautiful, peaceful. But beneath that peace, she felt something else, like being watched by the planet itself. Her companion, a small hovering drone named Kellen, buzzed beside her. "Environment stable," it said in its mechanical voice. "No radiation, no toxins. This place is perfect for recolonization." Mara nodded. "It's too perfect." They began to explore the ruins nearby. Stone structures covered in vines, half-buried statues, symbols carved into the walls. Kellen hovered closer. "Language detected. Partial match with ancient Elari script." Mara raised an eyebrow. "Elari? I thought they went extinct before Earth reached them." The drone projected a translation over the stone. "To those who come after, we are the children of the sleeping light. We learned and we remember. Listen before you touch. Respect before you take," Mara frowned. "Listen before you touch." Hours passed. The team explored deeper into the ruins, discovering an underground chamber. Inside was a vast circular hall with walls made of smooth white crystal. At the center stood a single pedestal, covered in dust. Kellen hovered ahead. Energy signature detected beneath the surface. Weak but active. Mara brushed off the dust with her glove. On the pedestal sat something small, a pendant, faintly glowing white. Her breath caught. "What is that?" The drone scanned it. Energy readings consistent with ancient biosync technology. Possibly a memory core. She touched it gently. The moment her fingers brushed the surface, the room filled with light. The glow rose slowly, wrapping around her. The air trembled. The drone's lights flickered. Then a voice spoke. "You came back," Mara froze. "Who said that?" Long ago, humans came to take. They burned. They conquered. But one of them stayed to protect. The voice was soft, layered with echoes, human, but not. It sounded old, sad, beautiful. This world remembers both the hands that destroyed and the hands that healed, Mara whispered. You're the planet. We are what remains of it and of her. The light formed a faint shape, a woman's figure shining like mist. Her eyes were kind, her voice familiar and calm. I was once Mara of the Ilari. Now I am part of Nariel, Mara's heart pounded. You're alive? Alive in a way. I am memory, thought, the last dream of this world. The ghost smiled faintly. You have come again. Tell me, have your kind learned? Mara didn't answer right away. She thought of her ship above, the colonization orders, the research drones, the hunger for discovery that never truly faded from humankind. She lowered her head. We're trying. Mira's glow dimmed slightly. Then try harder. Outside, the wind began to stir. The trees whispered softly. The white flowers swayed as if breathing. Mara felt the ground tremble, not in anger, but in recognition. This world will welcome those who come in peace, Mira said. But if you come to own, to take, to burn, it will remember how to defend itself. The pendant in Mara's hand glowed brighter for a moment, then went still. The voice faded. Leave this message with your people. Tell them, the elders warned them once. The world will warn them again. Then the light vanished. Mara stood alone in the silent chamber. The air was still warm, filled with something that felt alive but calm. She picked up the pendant, placing it carefully around her neck. It pulsed once, soft, steady. Kellen, she whispered, record all of this. Every word, the drone hummed. Recording complete. Transmission ready. Mara looked up at the glowing walls. No, don't send it yet. The drone paused. Reason? She smiled faintly. Let them come here first. Let them see. Let them listen before they touch. That night, from orbit, the Erebus Dawn recorded a strange event on the planet's surface. Lines of white light forming across the land. Spelling words in the ancient Elari language, visible even from space. The translation appeared on their screens. Simple and clear. Remember Mira. Remember what you woke. Far away, in the heart of the Terran Confederacy, when the signal finally reached Earth months later, the scientists argued the generals dismissed it, and the politicians ignored it. But somewhere, in a quiet research station on Luna, a young child watched the transmission and whispered softly, "We should listen." And whispered softly, "We should listen."